Students from the University of Michigan were caught on film speaking poorly to an Uber driver. And when I say speaking poorly, I am not giving enough credit to how hideous and horrendous this rant was. Now, this was all over an Uber driver not wanting to take these particular passengers on the ride. The Uber driver claims that he didn't want to do it because he had given them rides before and they harassed him and made him uncomfortable, so he wanted to cancel the trip. Since he wanted to cancel the trip, it led to the exchange you're about to see now. Take a look.
Okay, let's go. Oh, hold up. Let's see you. You're canceling us again. Why? For what? See, they don't give a shit about you. They don't give two fucks. There's 50 of you. And there's one of me here who spends the most money here, you little fuck. Yeah, fuck you, Arthur, you little faggot fuck. You want to kick me off? Kick me off, you little piece of shit. You're an Uber driver. Go fucking drive, you little fuck. Minimum wage faggot. Go fuck yourself. See you later. Go pick up another fuck. You're working all day. Guess what? I'm going to sit on my ass and watch TV. Fuck you.
Wow. Okay.
This is why I don't leave my house on most days. People like that are all too common. Jesus, he's so happy with himself.
He feels so good about himself, berating someone and making fun of what his income is. Yeah. That's what makes you a classy person, by attacking his income?
There's a joke in Jimmy Dore's Hulu special. He's like, the minimum wage workers, yeah, they need to be taken down a peg. Like, first of all, they don't make minimum wage, but yeah, it's not a super high paying job. So like, you are gonna sit around? So like, are you bragging that you don't have a job or that you don't need to have a job because your parents pay for you to go to school? Like, what ridiculous privilege is leading to this stupid enthusiasm?
So the Uber driver that he was attacking is Artur Zawada. And again, he claims that he had dealt with him in the past and that he was such a terrible passenger that he just didn't want to pick him up again. Let me give you his quote. "I already told him I would never take him again. He knew that, but he didn't cancel the trip. I pulled in, I didn't even say anything to the guy, and that happened. So I pulled out my cell phone and recorded him. He should have just canceled before I came over. They were looking for trouble. They were hoping I would lose my cool." But he didn't lose his cool. So campus newspapers and BuzzFeed did a really good job in investigating this story and kind of figuring out who this student is. And here's what they found out. Campus newspaper, the Michigan Review, identified the man in the video wearing the black coat as Jake Croman. Now, as I give you more details about him, the story becomes even more frustrating. Croman is the son of a wealthy New York City real estate developer, Stephen Croman, and works as an associate at his father's company.
This guy's going to be running for president in 24 years as an asshole.
And middle class and working class people are going to applaud him as someone who's going to make America great again.
The sad thing is that his father, I have no idea, I've done absolutely zero research, probably built that company from scratch so that his kid would have it easier, but his kid has it a bit too easy. And now he's a douchebag who was handed a job and thinks that everything in the world is owed to him. So fuck this guy who has to drive for a living, has to pick up people. It's a service that this guy actively wants to use, but hates the people who have to work to provide that service.
So there have been, a number of studies that we've talked about on the show regarding what wealth and power does to you as a person, right? And it's actually very depressing because even if you're a very humble, good-natured individual, money does something to you. When you become wealthy, you have this sense of entitlement that makes you think that you're more worthy than anyone making less money than you. And it's disgusting behavior. I hate it. I hate watching people tear each other down like that, especially because when you're punching down, when you're attacking the powerless, you look like the biggest asshole on the planet, right?
He doesn't even know it. He was filming that too. As he's yelling faggot. He thinks that what he's doing is cool. He wants his friends to see it.
Well, his friends are behind him smiling.
Ashamed. I know, that's the thing that pisses me off the most. So I did political psychology in graduate school. I wish that I'd done regular psychology my whole life so that I could start to understand why people are the assholes they are. If a friend of mine did anything like that, that's it. We're not friends anymore. I have no interest in being around a person that would do that, let alone maybe if the guy just flips out for a justified reason and says some stuff that I don't like. But that guy thinks he's putting on a show. He's so happy. Fuck that guy. I'd never talk to him again.
Because again, he thinks that he's more worthy or he's a better person simply because he comes from money, simply because he has a certain amount of resources that this Uber driver doesn't have.
That he didn't earn.
That he didn't earn. Exactly. He's a college student. He's a frat. He's part of a frat, I should say. All right, so Jake Croman did speak to the press to defend himself. But before you make any judgments, let me give you the full story. He says, this video shows one side of an argument I had with an Uber driver who 2 weeks ago, after he refused to pick me up on the basis of my religion. What you don't see in the video is that the driver had made a number of offensive anti-Semitic remarks that provoked my response. I am not proud of my reaction to this discrimination or to his discrimination, and I regret my choice of words. Shortly after the verbal altercation, I filed a complaint with the Ann Arbor Police Department, and they are now dealing with the issue. Well, BuzzFeed looked into that to see exactly what the complaint said, and they found that an Ann Arbor police spokeswoman or spokesperson subsequently told BuzzFeed News they could not locate his name in the reporting system, meaning that he didn't report anything.
And look, the reason that he turns to that is that it's not impossible. Theoretically, the guy could have said something anti-Semitic. It seems weird that the guy would say that and then he would willingly record the target of his anti-Semitic comment, who mysteriously doesn't mention anything like that during his rant, who seems happy. His group doesn't say anything about it.
And they both have phones.
If you're being victimized, you don't then start throwing out faggot at the person, okay? You then say, fuck you, how dare you say that to me? Say the word, I'm gonna talk to Uber. He doesn't do anything like that. He just acts like a little prick to the guy.
So,
he's just an entitled asshole.
He is an entitled asshole.
The country, and especially universities and a lot of frats, are just filled up with him, man. And it pisses me off so much that this is what our country is full of.
So I guess a question that I want to ask you and the audience, to be honest, is how do you change like the political climate that we have now and our political system when this is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with, right? Like, we have a system that's screwing us on a daily basis. We have media that's misinforming us on a daily basis. And at the same time, it's an uphill battle. Like, we go out of our way to cover the stories that aren't being covered, to inform the public, to make sure that we're giving them all the information they need to be responsible, informed political activists. But why? Like, I know I'm being like a downer right now, but are these the people that we're talking to? I know we have
probably
a
not
huge.
a fan. Maybe he's a fan.
I know. Look, we have a huge audience of insanely intelligent people who care about changing the system, who want to make a difference. But at the same time, when you look at the grand scheme of things, and when you look at how many people are in this country, how many people are uninformed, apathetic, do not care, straight up stupid. Okay, there are a lot of people out there who just don't want to be informed on the issues. What are we doing? Are we going to change the system? When we're having like conversations about Bernie Sanders and his tone, or Bernie Sanders and whether or not his supporters are sexist or Bernie bros, when we're having all these distractions constantly that take away from us trying to make a difference, are we actually going to succeed in making a difference?
Yeah, look, I hope that I obviously take anecdotes like this and it makes me hate humanity to a large extent. But I assume that there are not that many wealthy sons of real estate developers. There's probably not millions of them in the country. And so the idea is that while this guy is in many ways the enemy ideologically, like, you think this guy is gonna like solve like the problems between men and women? He's gonna help bridge the racial divide? He's gonna solve the economic inequalities we have in the system? He's firmly on the other side of all that, I'm sure. But we hope that he's outnumbered by smarter people. And I think that we're playing a long game of setting up the next generation to be slightly better, and then the next generation to be slightly better, slightly more open-minded, slightly more tolerant. I mean, this guy has to apologize for throwing the F word around. 50 years ago, he wouldn't have to.
For it.
So we are making progress that this sort of guy, I think everybody outside of maybe some fratty websites who are going to enthusiastically say that this is the bro of the week or something, are going to look at this guy and say, no, he's obviously an asshole. And it takes a lot of social progress to get to the point where that guy is obviously an asshole to everyone other than himself and his social group. Hopefully even his father watches that video and is like, oh God, this is the guy I'm leaving all my money to.